Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to director Goran Stolevski about Of an Age in theaters February 17th. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Petey. Very happy to be talking.
I mean, it's interesting, you work on a movie in the horror genre, go to Sundance, do all these kind of chats and everything. This is kind of another kind of story, an amazing story, a dynamic story, but not horror and everything. How important was it for you as a storyteller to be able to kind of right away work in all these different worlds, all these different genres?
Oh, I mean, it was not really strategic to start with the horror film. To be honest, even when I wrote You Won't Be Alone, I kind of wrote it for myself, and I felt like an idiot because I thought it would never get financed because it's a lot more expensive and complicated than most of the stuff I write. And also before I even got a chance to shoot it, I had already written 13 scripts. They were quite different. Like, to me, it's the feeling that drives something, not really so much the genre context, because I feel like every genre can give you something magical, including relationship drama. It can be transporting in a way. And before I finished You Won't Be Alone, we already had the next film finance. It's now the one I'm just finishing now, which is the third film. But there was a gap in between of a few months. And I was like, I had just finished writing Of an Age before we shot You Won't Be Alone, so it was the rawest. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a sense of doing horror or not doing it. It was more just genuinely, this one feels so raw. And I could feel it, in my body physically still. Yeah. And I thought, it's very rare you get to do something soon after writing it. Usually, it's been sitting there for 10 years and you have to struggle to reconnect. But I was like, if there's any way I can do this now, it'd be a lot more electric.
Yeah.
10 years from now, I'm not sure. And I don't know if they'll ever let me make a movie.
Yeah, it's like, gotta make this movie. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's crazy because, this one's coming out now. You said you're working on another one. It's like, it's nonstop, but I feel like you kind of know that as a creative. It's not, but I do want to talk about this movie because I really loved it. It was awesome. So many tight close-up shots, and I'm just wondering, what were those kind of conversations like with everyone, the cinematographers, with that? Was that kind of a big part of it, making sure that a lot of it was close-up? Like, I'm just curious about that.
No, it wasn't even just. I mean, most of my work I do is very close-up driven. And my cinematographer, Thom, knows that, already. So I think he anticipated that would happen a lot. And, in my case, to me, like, the close-up is the master shot. Like, I don't shoot the establisher first and go on and blah, blah. Like, I need to capture the feeling in the raw state, and the most important thing is the close-up. And then establishers I shoot sometimes for clarity, or to make a story cohesive and easy to follow. Or sometimes, you need the distance because the feeling of the character in that moment, means the camera is invasive if it's any closer than that. So a lot of the time, we would shoot the close-ups, and because I edit as well, I kind of know if I have enough. And I also don't like to make actors, spend emotion, even the simplest things, take a lot. We have to inhabit another human being. And also the crew, every single take and shot is it's time and it's effort, and you need to feel it has a purpose. Maybe often because I know that in the close-ups, we have all we need. And because the films I'm making are very much about a very intimate connection.
Yes.
All of the time, the character's attention is very much on another set of eyes, and you need to have nothing else get in the way of that. So that's why I think it ends up quite close-up driven. The next one I'm just finishing now actually is probably less thorough because it's much more hectic and ensemble. So I adjust to circumstances and the feelings of acting.
You always got another project. I love it. It's so awesome. I want you very quickly to ask me a quick question. Goran, ask me who my favorite character. What's my favorite character in Of an Age? Ask me that right now.
Favorite character and favorite scene. Tell me right now.
Well, my favorite character is the car.
Of course it is. Jesus.
I mean, am I wrong? I mean, it's a good one. Well,
It was very hard to make sure the car was also conveying a lot of nuances.
Oh, the car is a character. Let's be honest. You did that so amazingly. How important was it though? Those scenes, like that's like there's a lot of kind of takeaways of this movie, but those car scenes, that's basically where all the big things in this movie happen. And the car, like I said, is a great arc. Like it's a character. So what was that like specifically?
It's an incredibly sexy car. That's what we're looking for.
What was that like with the car specifically as like a character? I'm curious about that.
To be honest, I'm a big believer in working with what's in front of you rather than what you may have envisioned. I didn't have too concrete an idea. I kind of thought of it as a sky blue color initially, and I'm really glad we didn't get that because the way the copper, the light reflected off the copper onto the actual spaces, it gave it this like very earthy feeling. Like literally, even when you don't see most of the car, like actually don't see a lot of the car a lot of the time, but it's very present. And it just kind of gives it a very earthy feeling that also feels very kind of that period, like analog, like very tactile.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, that was the one that was available. Like that was also kind of photogenic and could work and be safe. And then I was like, okay, this is the car we have. How do we, frame scenes to, get the most out of it? To, like actually pretty much really give the car personality. And also sort of, everyone has to be kind of in unison, in harmony to an extent. And I'm really so happy immediately that just turns in a way that complements it. Because, the sex scene would be nowhere near as hot otherwise, surely.
I mean, everyone's going to talk about the arc of the car. There's a big arc there. There's a lot of growth from a lot of the characters.
Depends. The audience was screening yesterday just wanted to talk about the sex, but I also accept those questions.
But I mean, Goran Stolevski is a storyteller, and I just want to know more about that. Like, what's the best thing about being a storyteller? Like, have you been able to? You worked on these amazing films so far. You're working with these incredible people. Have you discovered what you like the most about being a storyteller yet? Because some people might not know the answer to that right away.
Yeah, it's from the process, like just kind of the fact that a feeling I had or carried could be transplanted, onto a movie, and then directly it feels sometimes like the identical feeling is translated into a viewer. There's some reviews I read of You Won't Be Alone where like people were using words that I didn't tell other people, like in terms of what was motivating me, how I was picturing a feeling. Sometimes you don't want to talk about something in a certain way because it sounds over ambitious or like as if you can convey that level of detail or feeling. And yet a writer or a film critic that I'd never met in my life was praising it exactly, like word for word. I didn't even put it in my director's statement, but like they knew it word for fucking word. So that's a feeling of mine that now lives in them, and that can 50 years from now, if my films exist. I mean, I'm a little bit of a no-name filmmaker still, but on the off chance that like someone knows my name 50 years from now, looks it up and watches these films, that means my feeling lives on after I do. And that's genuinely the driving point. Like just finding the people, like connecting with the people who will connect with the film most intensely. Not necessarily the biggest amount of people or like a specific set or like film snobs and non-film snobs, just the ones who like would get the most emotional, weight.
When moments from your movies kind of stay with people like for a long time and they go to work the next day and they're thinking of a movie, like that's the best, right? Like that's the point of all this, yeah.
With both of these films, the fact that I've had so many people talk to me how it stayed with them for days and a lot of time afterwards. And again, these are not my aunts or cousins. They're in their lives.
Yeah,
it's remarkable.
It's so crazy, and I honestly can't wait for people to see Of an Age in theaters February 17th because it's going to be so great with the big screen. Like I said, the shots and everything. They're going to meet my favorite character, the car. It's going to be a great time. Go to the theaters. Goran, thank you so much for your time. It was really great chatting with you.
This is so much fun. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Go see Of an Age in theaters February 17th. Until next time, Goran and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.